They didn't just cut me out of the family. They held a memorial, while I was still alive. I found out through a stranger's video. My parents, dressed in black, reading a eulogy at the front of a church, with my photo beside a closed casket. I was standing in my apartment, breathing, shaking, and watching my own funeral unfold. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A horrible, twisted misunderstanding. But what I uncovered next. It wasn't an accident. It was a plan. A calculated erasure, legal, public, and permanent. And the reason behind it? Far darker than anything I imagined. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about what happens when your identity, your existence, becomes inconvenient to the people who once called you family. Stick with me until the end, because the truth they tried to bury. I brought it back from the dead. And if stories like this speak to you, hit subscribe to join me here on ErasedMe. Because sometimes, the ones they silence are the ones with the loudest truth to tell. I was halfway through making my second cup of coffee when the birds outside went silent. Not just quiet, completely still, like the world had paused and was waiting for something. That's when my phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Local fire department. Headline: Historic Tran Pavilion destroyed in 3-alarm blaze, suspected arson. I nearly dropped my mug. The Tran Pavilion wasn't just another building, it was my design. My legacy. My last project with Grandpa before he passed last fall. I hadn't seen the place in 6 months, not since I left Seattle for a mountainside job site 2 states over. I tapped into the video embedded in the article, and the screen lit up with orange hell. Flames devoured the curved beams. The glass atrium shattered like gunfire. I could almost hear Grandpa's voice screaming over the sound of breaking dreams. But that wasn't the worst part. Beneath the footage was a caption. Short. Cold. Lead architect Celia Tran under investigation. I stared at it for a full minute, unblinking. My name. In bold. As if I had torched the one place that mattered to me more than anything. As if I had burned down the last proof that I was ever part of my family. Something was wrong. Deeply, dangerously wrong. And somehow, I knew, this fire wasn't just about a building. It was about me. And someone wanted me gone. I packed my bags that same afternoon, caught the last bus out of Timberlake, and didn't sleep once during the 6-hour ride back to Seattle. My thoughts were a loop of smoke, glass, and Grandpa's laugh, cut short by fire. But it wasn't until I stepped into the city that things really started to feel off. The office I used to work at, Tran and Vo Architects, had my name scraped off the directory. Not just removed. Scratched, like someone used a key. The front desk girl, who used to greet me with a smile and coffee, didn't even make eye contact. When I asked for Mr. Vo, she blinked and said, "Sorry, do you have an appointment?" I used to co-own this firm. I didn't push. I left. But outside, I noticed the glass signage had changed. Now it just read Vo Group Design. No, Tran. No trace of me. I tried my key card on the back entrance. Dead. Not deactivated, deleted. My chest tightened. I walked 2 blocks to the family lawyer's building. The receptionist looked up and froze like she'd seen a ghost. "Celia," she whispered. I thought. What? I asked. You thought what? Before she could answer, a man stepped out from the back and shook his head. "I'm sorry. Miss Tran isn't expected. We can't help you today." He didn't say you're not on the list. He said Miss Tran isn't expected. Like I wasn't me. Something bigger was at play. And I wasn't just being shut out. Beneath the footage was a caption. Short. Cold. Lead architect Celia Tran under investigation. I stared at it for a full minute, unblinking. My name. In bold. As if I had torched the one place that mattered to me more than anything. As if I had burned down the last proof that I was ever part of my family. something was wrong. Deeply, dangerously wrong. And somehow, I knew, this fire wasn't just about a building. It was about me. And someone wanted me gone. I packed my bags that same afternoon, caught the last bus out of Timberlake, and didn't sleep once during the 6-hour ride back to Seattle. My thoughts were a loop of smoke, glass, and Grandpa's laugh, cut short by fire. But it wasn't until I stepped into the city that things really started to feel off. The office I used to work at, Tran and Vo Architects, had my name scraped off the directory. Not just removed. Scratched, like someone used a key. The front desk girl, who used to greet me with a smile and coffee, didn't even make eye contact. When I asked for Mr. Vo, she blinked and said, "Sorry, do you have an appointment? I used to co-own this firm." I didn't push. I left. But outside, I noticed the glass signage had changed. Now it just read Vo Group Design. No, Tran. No trace of me. I tried my key card on the back entrance. Dead. Not deactivated, deleted. My chest tightened. I walked 2 blocks to the family lawyer's building. The receptionist looked up and froze like she'd seen a ghost. "Celia," she whispered. I thought. "What?" I asked. "You thought what?" Before she could answer, a man stepped out from the back and shook his head. "I'm sorry. Miss Tran isn't expected. We can't help you today." He didn't say you're not on the list. He said Miss Tran isn't expected. Like I wasn't me. Something bigger was at play. And I wasn't just being shut out. I stopped reaching out after the 3rd unanswered call. My Aunt Lon used to call me her second daughter. Now she didn't pick up. Not even when I texted her a photo of the memorial banner with Ivy's name splashed across it like a trophy. No reply. Just silence. It echoed everywhere. At first, I told myself they were confused. Shocked. That maybe someone else had made this mess and everyone was just going along with it. But the deeper I sank, the clearer it became, they all knew. Even Uncle Min, who taught me how to use drafting pencils when I was 9, had posted a tribute on Facebook the day the pavilion burned. "We miss you, Celia," it said. "You would have been proud of what Ivy's doing." Would have. As if I'd already crossed over. The weight settled in slowly, like cold water filling a locked room. Not panic. Not grief. Just this dull, aching absence of belief in anything or anyone. I went back to my apartment and sat in the dark. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't answer messages. I just watched the glow of the city lights blink across the ceiling, thinking about Grandpa. He never would have allowed this. I remember the way his hand rested on mine the day we broke ground on the pavilion. "You'll carry this forward someday, Celia," he said. "No matter what anyone says." But he was gone. And now, so was I. Officially. I opened my laptop, typed my name into the state database, and held my breath. Celia Tran, status, deceased. Certificate #WA 58231. Who signed my death? And why did no one stop it? I couldn't sleep after that. Something in me snapped, clean, cold. The kind of break you don't cry over. The kind that sharpens you. At 2:13 a.m., I pulled out the fireproof lockbox Grandpa gave me when I turned 25. It still smelled faintly of cedar and ink. Inside were old contracts, handwritten notes, design drafts, stuff no one cared about but us. That's where I found it. A signed joint ownership agreement. Dated 11 months before Grandpa died. Both our signatures. Witnessed. Notarized. Clear as day. It named me co-author and co-owner of the Tran Pavilion project, intellectual property and future assets included. I scanned it 3 times, just to be sure I wasn't hallucinating. If this document existed, then the only way Ivy could legally take over was if I was out of the picture. Not fired. Not removed. Dead. I dug deeper, bank statements, email backups, archived designs. That's when I saw the transfer record, a month after the fire, Grandpa's endowment, $1.2 million. Was redirected to a shell account under IT Development Solutions. IT. Ivy Tran. I froze. Everything went quiet. The fridge stopped humming. The city seemed to hold its breath. They didn't just take the pavilion. They took my name, my future, my inheritance, and buried it under ashes and lies. I sat back, the document still in my hands. They needed me gone to get everything. So they killed me on paper. But I'm still here. And now, I have proof. The next morning, I woke up with the document still clutched in my hand. My fingers had left creases along the edge, like I was trying to fold it into something I could survive in. But there's no shape for this kind of betrayal. I moved around my apartment like a shadow, boiling water I never drank, opening cabinets I didn't need. My brain kept running in circles, replaying names, voices, moments that now felt tainted. Every memory of Ivy was reframed. Her questions about the project. The way she hovered when Grandpa and I met to discuss the design. The time she borrowed my laptop for email stuff and returned it acting like nothing happened. I didn't see it then. I didn't want to. What hurts isn't just that they took everything. It's that they didn't think I'd notice. Worse, that they believed I didn't matter enough to come back. The idea that my entire identity could be wiped clean with a forged certificate and a few polite condolences, it makes your stomach twist. You start doubting everything. If I disappeared today, really disappeared, how long would it take before no one noticed? Maybe that's the part that broke me. Not the fire. Not the lies. But realizing that everyone I trusted had agreed, in silent unison, to pretend I never existed. Ivy didn't just replace me. She rewrote me. And the others? They nodded along. Smiled for press photos. Called it healing. Maybe they even believed it. But I didn't die. And I'm not going to disappear just because it's more convenient for them if I stay quiet. They think the silence protects them. They forgot it also sharpens people like me. I'm not going to scream. I'm going to build. One truth at a time. I was staring at my ceiling again when my old phone lit up. Not the one I use now, this was the cracked, half-broken Motorola I hadn't powered on in almost 2 years. I kept it buried in a drawer, more habit than sentiment. No SIM card, just old photos and voicemails I never had the heart to delete. But the screen buzzed. A notification blinked to life. One new message. From a number I didn't recognize. It was a voice memo. 38 seconds. No subject. No text. I hit play. First came static, then muffled breathing. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Celia? It's Ethan. I don't know if this is still your number. I used a backdoor through the project archives. I saw what Ivy did. She cloned your files. Even your signature. If you're hearing this, you were right. I sat up so fast I nearly knocked the lamp over. Ethan. Our former systems tech. Quiet. Paranoid. Brilliant. Grandpa never trusted anyone else with the digital blueprints. I replayed the message twice. Then I logged into the cloud drive we used during construction, the one they'd claimed was corrupted. Ethan must have cracked it open. In the archive folder, buried under layers of renamed files, was a .zip file labeled CTAuth copy. My initials. I downloaded it with shaking hands. Inside. Blueprint revisions with my digital ID. Time-stamped messages between me and Grandpa. Signed render approvals with metadata Ivy could never fake. Proof. Proof I was the original architect. Proof I was erased. And suddenly, the weight I'd been dragging around cracked, just a little. I wasn't alone in this. Not completely. There were still fragments of the truth that hadn't burned. I stood up. Stretched. Closed my eyes. If they buried me in silence, then it's time I answered back, with thunder. I didn't tell anyone I was back in town. No posts. No calls. I moved like a ghost, slipping through Seattle's gray mist with a backpack full of receipts, flash drives, and copied contracts. I started small. A visit to the county clerk's office, just long enough to request a certified copy of the death certificate. The woman behind the desk blinked twice when I handed over my ID. "There must be a mistake," she said. "No," I told her. There was a decision. Then I went to the records department. Pulled every transfer document tied to my name. Followed the money trail Ivy thought she'd buried beneath shell corporations and smiley press releases. I collected notarized timestamp proofs, public filings, and even backup surveillance stills from the bank. Piece by piece, I built the case. Quietly. Relentlessly. Each folder I filled was another nail. Not in my coffin, in theirs. Late at night, I'd spread the papers across my floor like blueprints. My version of the pavilion. Except this time, I wasn't designing steel and glass. I was designing justice. And every name that signed me off as gone would see the foundation crack. "You're playing it smart, Celia," Ethan said over a burner call. "But you only get one chance to make it land." "What's the plan?" I looked out the window. Across the city skyline, the Tran Pavilion's reconstruction was nearly finished. The grand reopening was scheduled for next month. I smiled, tight and quiet. "I'm not crashing the party," I said. "I'm rewriting the program." He whistled low. "Hell's coming in a tailored suit, huh?" "No," I said. "It's coming with permits, proof, and perfect timing. Let them pour the champagne. Let them take the stage. Because when the lights hit, I'll be the one holding the mic." I arrived 5 minutes before the doors opened. No cameras. No announcement. Just me in a black blazer, hair pinned back, folder tucked under one arm like any other guest. No one noticed. That was the point. The Tran Pavilion looked different now, sharper, colder. They'd polished it for the press, for donors, for Ivy. But the bones? Still mine. Inside, the lights were warm. Strings of bulbs framed the stage. Waiters passed flutes of champagne. Familiar faces clinked glasses and whispered about legacy, innovation, the new era. I moved along the wall, unnoticed. The silence followed me. Then her voice. Ivy stood beneath the archway, flawless in a pearl-white jumpsuit. Camera crews formed a half-circle around her. My mother was in the front row, nodding with approval. Uncle Min adjusted his tie like this was the moment he'd been waiting for. "And none of this would be possible without the vision of those who came before us," Ivy said sweetly. "This pavilion is not just a structure. It's a memory." She smiled. The crowd clapped. I stepped forward. Not fast. Not loud. Just enough to be seen. It took them a few seconds. Then someone gasped. Ivy's eyes caught mine mid-sentence, and she froze. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. You could feel the shift, like oxygen being sucked from the room. I reached into my folder. Pulled out a single document. Raised it just enough for her to see the header. Proof of original authorship, Celia Tran. Her face drained. I walked to the stage. Still no one moved. I handed the document to the moderator without a word. He blinked, confused, then looked closer, his jaw clenched. Behind me, murmurs began. Phones lifted. Red dots blinked. Someone whispered, "Is that?" I turned to Ivy. "You gave them a show," I said quietly. "Now let's give them the truth." The fallout came fast. Within a week, the media picked up the footage. The press spun it like wildfire. Dead architect returns to reclaim legacy. Legal filings followed: fraud investigation, identity falsification, breach of intellectual property. Ivy's team went quiet. So did the family. No calls. No messages. Just silence, like they were still pretending I was gone. But this time, the silence didn't hurt. It confirmed something I already knew. I was never meant to be part of their version of the story. And that's okay. The pavilion's plaque now reads, designed by Celia Tran and Henry Tran. It's small. Polite. Tucked to the side of the lobby. But it's mine. I still walk past sometimes, pretending I'm just another visitor. I watch as people admire the light pouring through the glass atrium. They don't know the shape of the beams came from a napkin sketch Grandpa and I made over black tea. They don't know the woman who built it was once declared legally dead. They don't have to. What matters is that the truth is set, in stone, in record, in legacy. No one can erase it now. I didn't get revenge. Not really. Ivy won't go to prison. My parents won't apologize. And the scars? They stay. Quiet. Deep. But I got something better. I exist again, on my own terms. Sometimes, people don't kill you with bullets. They kill you with paperwork, with silence, with erasure. And sometimes, the only way to survive, is to come back as your own witness. I leave the pavilion behind, the glass catching late sunlight. It glows like fire. But this time, it doesn't burn. I used to think the worst thing a person could do was forget you. But I was wrong. The worst thing is being remembered wrong, as someone you never were, in a story you didn't write. For a while, I tried to fight that version of me, the ghost they built out of convenience. I wanted to scream, to burn it all down in return. But here's what I've learned: truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to stand. You can fake documents. You can rewrite histories. You can dress up betrayal in black lace and perfect speeches. But eventually, reality breathes back through the cracks. What they did to me? It wasn't just personal. It was quiet violence. A decision made in rooms I wasn't invited to. But I survived it. Not because I'm stronger, or smarter. But because somewhere, deep down, I still believed I mattered. Even when no one else did. If you've ever felt erased, like your voice didn't count, like someone handed your life to someone else and smiled while doing it. I see you. You don't have to scream. You just have to show up. And sometimes, showing up is the loudest thing you'll ever do. Let them think they buried you. Let them build their stories on top of your silence. Because when you rise, not to destroy, but to speak, that's when the truth becomes unforgettable. And some truths, once unearthed, don't go quietly.